line between the 2 points, -1, 3, and 5, 2. That would make a line segment because it has 2 endpoints, right? Have y'all ever learned the difference in a line and a line segment? Okay? A line segment has endpoints. So if I want to measure the distance from one to the other, I could use the distance formula. All right? So the formula is D equals big radical x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Now, when you have two ordered pairs, remember we did this when we did slope a very long time ago. This is a x and this is a y, and this is a x and this is a y, correct? Right? And if they're in the first ordered pair, they're the ones. And if they're in the second ordered pair, they're the twos. Does that make sense? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my x2 and x1 and y2 and y1 and then simplify under the radical, and the last thing we'll do is take a square root. So I'm going to say D equals big radical, parentheses. What is my x2? 5 minus what is my x1? -1 parentheses squared plus parentheses. What's y2? Minus 3 parentheses squared. And the next thing I do is add and subtract in my parentheses because order of operations, parentheses, then exponents, right? So 5 minus -1 is the same thing as 5 plus 1. So that is going to be 6 squared, right? And 2 minus 3 is what? -1 squared. I don't know why I made that radical so big. So what is 6 squared? Plus what's -1 squared? 1. And what is 36 plus 1? So the square root of 37. Can we take a square root of 37? We are not telling decimals. We simplify radicals around here. Oh, yeah, I know it's 6 point something. All right, so 37 is not a perfect square. Are there any squares besides one that go into 37? No. So we're going to leave it that, radical 37. 37 is a prime number, so that's as far as it'll go. But y'all, it's really not difficult once you memorize the formula. Okay? So you just know where to put all your numbers, add or subtract, then you do your squares, then you add, then you take a square root. Every single time. All right, copy down problem B. -3, 1, and 2, 3. We want to find the distance between those two ordered pairs. So D equals big radical, parentheses, x2 minus x1 parentheses squared plus y2 minus y1 parentheses squared. Good? All right, what is my x2? That means the second x. 2. Yeah, if you need to label them every time, more power to you. It will not hurt one thing. I'd rather you label it every time than get it wrong every time. So, 2 minus what is x1? -3 squared plus what is y2? Minus what's y1? 1. Then I simplify in the parentheses. 2 minus -3 means 2 plus 3, which is, so that's 5 squared plus, what's 3 minus 1? 2 squared. And then I square them. What's 5 squared? Plus what? 4. And what is 25 plus 4 equal? Can I simplify radical 29 at all? Nope. So there's my answer, which is about 5 points something. No, that was an estimate. Radical 29 is right. But it wasn't exact. All right, let's do it again. This time between the point 30 and 36. D equals big radical x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Why do you think I'm writing the formula every single time? It helps me memorize it. Helps me memorize it. All right. So here's x1, here's y1, here's x2, here's y2. So what goes in for x2? 3 minus x1 squared plus what's y2? What's y2? Minus 0 squared. What's 3 minus 3? 0 squared plus what's 6 minus 0? 6 squared. So D equals radical 0 plus, which is the square root of, which equals 6. So if you can simplify your radical, then simplify your radical. Any questions about distance formula and how to use it? All right, you guys try this one. Write the formula, plug it in, get your distance. Thank you. You're welcome. All right, so what did y'all get? What did y'all put in for x2? Y'all answer me. What's x2? Minus what's x1? Squared plus what's y2? Minus y1 squared. So D equals big radical 2 minus negative 2 is 4 plus 4 squared. Did y'all get that? So D equals square. Did I do it right? 16 plus 16, D equals the square root of 32. And that's simplifiable, isn't it? What is the largest square that goes into 32? 16 times 2. And what's the square root of 16? Did y'all get 4 radical 2? Raise your hand if you got 4 radical 2. Yep.
Is there any relation between the 4 squares up there? Both of those 4 squares and the final answer?
Yes. It's just a different way to break it down.
Okay.
How many 4 squares do we have? What's left in my radical? Good job. There's patterns everywhere. Math is so cool. All right. So let's talk about midpoints. So a midpoint is exactly what it sounds like. What do you think the part that says mid means? In the middle. What do you think point means?
Point in the spot.
A point is actually an ordered pair, right? Like it's a regular coordinate point, right? So a midpoint is a point that's in the middle of 2 points. That means they say that word equidistant. That means it's to say equidistant. Say it again. Equidistance. There's not an L in the word equidistant. It's equidistant. Funny little word. All right. So equidistant means if I'm standing at the midpoint of 2 objects, that means it takes me the same length to get to one object as it does for me to go in another direction and get to the other option. Right? So that's what equidistant means. It means you're exactly in the middle. That means whatever the length is from you to one thing, it's the same length as you are to the other thing. So a very, very, very important geometry concept will come from the definition of a midpoint. So that was my whole goal in teaching you this lesson, is to get you some geometry correlation things going on. This right here? Yes, it's an ordered pair. So the formula says x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2, and it's in parentheses, but it is an ordered pair. So to get the x value, you're going to add your 2 x's and divide by 2. And to get your y value, you're going to add the 2 y values and divide by 2. Now, if I add 2 things and divide by 2, that's the same thing as taking the what? If I add 2 things and divide by 2, it's the same thing as taking a what? I think somebody's saying it, but they're just not saying it loud enough. If I take 2 things and divide by 2, I'm taking their what? I'm finding the what? The average, the mean. Right? So, yeah, if I take 2 things and I add them together and divide by 2, I'm finding the average. So that's what you're doing when you're finding a midpoint. You're taking the x values and finding their average, and that will be your mid-x value. And then I'll take the 2 y values, add them together, and divide by 2, and that will tell me the average of the y, and that will be my y coordinate for the midpoint. Okay? So even if you forget the formula, that's how you do it. You take the average of the x's and the average of the y's and get your ordered pair. Mm-hmm. If I don't, I don't, because I put my last, I lied. You're gonna have to open it. All right. So I have the points -1, -2, and 3, 4, or 3, -4, and I want to find the midpoint of those 2 points. So I'm going to use my formula, x1 plus x2 over 2 and y1 plus y2 over 2. Also, this formula is the last formula on your little quiz you're going to get tomorrow. So make sure you memorize it. And y'all remember, this is x1, this is y1, this is x2, this is y2. So what is my x1 and my x2? Negative 1 plus 3 over 2 for my x's. Y'all agree? And for my y's, I have negative 2 plus negative 4. Y'all agree? Got it? All right. What is negative 1 plus 3? Positive 2 over 2. And negative 2 plus negative 4 is negative 6. So the last thing I have to do is divide them both by 2. What's 2 divided by 2? Comma, what's negative 6 divided by 2? So the ordered pair for my midpoint is 1, negative 3. If you don't have a parentheses and a comma in the middle, it's wrong. A midpoint is a point. It must look like a point. Okay? Any questions on that? So you add the x's divided by 2, add the y's divided by 2. That's all there is to it. Let's do another one. If your fractions do not divide evenly by 2, just reduce the fraction. Okay? Just reduce the fraction, because that will happen sometimes. So I have x1 plus x2 over 2 and y1 plus y2 over 2. All right, what's x1? 3 plus what? 7 over 2, comma, what is y1? Negative 1 plus what's y2? Negative 5 over 2. Then I add the numerators. What's negative 3 plus 7? Y'all are not participating. Like my Jonah says, you not participating. 4 over 2. And what's negative 1 plus negative 5? And then I divide them. 4 divided by 2 is what? Negative 6 divided by 2 is? So that ordered pair is 2, negative 3. And like I said, if they don't divide evenly, then you just reduce the fractions. Y'all try those. And I gave you all positive numbers. How easy is that? Way too easy. All right, what's x1? 4 plus what? Over 2 and 3 plus 5 over 2. What's 4 plus 2? What's 3 plus 5? What's 6 divided by 2? What's 8 divided by 2? Raise your hand if you got the ordered pair 3, 4, and you put parentheses around it and a comma in the middle. Because if you didn't, I'm not counting it wrong. It says my thingy is not plugged up. Oh well. We're going to stop the lesson anyway. Have a good day.